Chapter 4. Foundations of Momentum. As the sleek, black sedan came to a stop, Dr. Kristine Anderson, exuding a practiced grace, stepped out. Her attention was not on the architecture, but on the pale streaks of sunlight cutting through a canopy of amber leaves. It was a morning that invited stillness, but Kirsten's focus was already on the task ahead. Skypath, she understood, was not just a company. It was a narrative. Its chapters were written on engineering triumphs, mounting expectations, and a widening gap between ambition and execution. As she approached the entrance, her steps were deliberate, a reflection of the clarity she brought to every project. The weight of untapped promise was unmistakable, and Kristine was here to channel it into forward momentum. Though she had visited countless companies before, the energy of each organization was unique, its own signature marked by dissonance or harmony, tension or flow. Skypath's energy, she noted, carried an undercurrent of possibility, though muffled beneath layers of discord. Manny Duncan, a seasoned professional, met Kristine in the lobby, his handshake firm and expression steady. The subtle shift in energy that had come with her arrival wasn't lost on him. He had seen firsthand how fragmentation could hinder even the most promising initiatives. Still, he also trusted the expertise of the woman walking beside him. As they moved through the hallways of Skypath's core operations, their steps fell into an easy rhythm, a silent acknowledgement of the work ahead. "Dr. Anderson," Manny began, his tone measured but warm, "I trust your journey here was uneventful." "It was smooth, thank you," Kristine replied. She adjusted her notebook as they walked, her gaze briefly flicking to the windows framing the production floor. "Being here in person will allow me to observe what numbers and interviews can't convey. Energy doesn't always translate to reports." Manny nodded. "I've noticed the same. The unspoken dynamics, the small hesitations, those tend to tell more about where the challenges lie than a spreadsheet ever could. I take it you'll be starting with the biofuel division?" "Yes," Kristine said. "It's the convergence point. Whatever is happening there is likely a microcosm of the broader system." As they entered the biofuel division, the change in atmosphere was immediate. The hum of machinery underscored a quiet tension in the air, a stark contrast to the sharp focus seen on the faces of Skypath's most talented engineers. Workers moved with a strained efficiency, their movements deliberate, but lacking the spark of true innovation. Yet, amidst this, there was a palpable potential for improvement, a hope that with the right guidance, the discord could be transformed into harmony. Kristine took in the scene with subtle exactitude, her gaze shifting seamlessly between the employees, the facility's layout, and the intricate machinery that formed the backbone of Skypath's ambitious project. Manny stood a step behind her, observing her process as intently as she observed the environment. "Anything stand out?" he asked after a moment. "Patterns," Kristine replied, her voice thoughtful. "They're subtle, but consistent. Communication bottlenecks, energy that's spent rather than invested, systems operating, but not fully in sync." Manny nodded. "That's been my sense as well. That is why I reached out to you in the first place. If anyone can help us reconnect the threads, it's you." Kristine met his gaze briefly, her expression resolute. "We'll start with the threads. Then we'll strengthen the fabric." Maurice Carter and Haley Levins joined them in the small conference room overlooking the production floor. Haley's composed demeanor carried an undercurrent of determination, a quiet resilience born from her ability to navigate high-stakes decisions with unflinching focus. Beside her, Maurice's subtle weariness spoke of long hours spent troubleshooting persistent issues, his dedication evident despite the strain. Kristine took her seat at the head of the table, opening her notebook but leaving it blank. The determination in her eyes was a testament to their commitment to the company's success. "I want to begin with your perspectives," she said, her tone inviting but firm. "How do you see this division?" Haley was the first to respond. "Our engineering talent is world class. The level of expertise we've assembled here is unmatched in the industry." Maurice nodded, but added cautiously, "That's true, but the talent alone isn't enough. We have technical brilliance, but it's undermined by miscommunication and a lack of cohesion between departments." Kristine turned her attention to Manny, who had been listening intently. "And you, Mr. Duncan?" He leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the table. "SkyPath's strength has always been its ability to innovate, but right now, that innovation is being stifled by egos, by silos, by the pressure to deliver yesterday." Kristine nodded, jotting a single word in her notebook: misalignment. She looked back up, her gaze steady. "What you described is a familiar pattern. When innovation, expertise, and urgency aren't aligned, they work against each other instead of in unison. My role here is to recalibrate that alignment." Haley leaned forward, her brow furrowing slightly. "Recalibrate how, exactly? I'll admit, I don't even know the right questions to ask about this energy work you do." Kristine nodded, a genuine smile softening her expression. "I know this approach can feel abstract at first, but it's actually quite practical," she said, her tone reassuring. "Think of your organization as an interconnected system, much like the machinery on your production floor. When one element, communication, priorities, or leadership dynamics, is out of sync, it disrupts everything. My role is to uncover those misalignments that might not be immediately visible and help guide the system back into alignment. It's not magic. It's about understanding how everything fits together." Over the next several days, Kristine moved seamlessly between observing, listening, and engaging with the various teams at SkyPath. She spent hours on the production floor asking quiet but pointed questions to engineers like Maurice. She sat in on meetings between R&D and production teams, noting the unspoken tensions that hung heavy in the air. She even reviewed SkyPath's project timelines, identifying inconsistencies that hinted at deeper structural issues. As the sun dipped low over Franklin one evening, Kristine joined Haley in her office. The CFO had just finished a meeting with investors and was poring over financial projections. "How did it go?" Kristine asked as she stepped inside. Haley sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Investors are restless. They want results, but are unwilling to wait for what they see as unnecessary delays." Kristine studied Haley for a moment. Unnecessary delays. That's an interesting phrase. Do you think they understand the complexity of what you're doing here? Haley gave a mirthless laugh. "No, but their expectations don't leave much room for nuance." "That lack of nuance might be part of the problem," Kristine said gently. "When the internal narrative aligns with external expectations, you create a cohesive message. Right now, it seems those narratives are working at cross purposes." Haley's brow furrowed as she considered Kristine's words. "So you're saying it's not just about what we deliver, but how we communicate our value?" "Exactly," Kristine replied. "If you're not aligned internally, your external messaging will always feel fractured." By the end of the week, Kristine had synthesized her observations into a preliminary framework. She met with Manny, Haley, and Maurice in a quiet corner of the biofuel division's offices. She opened her notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of the page: alignment, efficiency, sustainability. "These are your pillars," she said, turning the notebook toward them. "Alignment will ensure your teams operate as one cohesive unit, Efficiency will streamline your processes and eliminate redundancies. Sustainability will anchor your innovation in a clear purpose that resonates internally and externally. Manny studied the words, his expression thoughtful. And how do we start? With clarification, Kristine replied. Over the coming weeks, we'll address each pillar in detail, identifying the changes needed to bring them to life. It won't be easy, but if we stay committed, SkyPath will not just recover, but lead. Manny settled into his chair, a hint of a smile softening his otherwise stern expression. Kristine smiled in return. Leadership starts with clarity. Let's create it. A sense of lightness settled over the room as the meeting wrapped up. The tension that had hung in the air for weeks was giving way to something steadier, something that felt like hope. For the first time in a long while, the way forward felt like a decision they were finally ready to make.